I'm Mimika Cooney and welcome to Mimika TV, the creator's place to build a brilliant business. Today we are talking about how to find the courage to follow your dream. Erin Smith started her entrepreneurial journey 13 years ago when she started investing in real estate across the country. Since then, she started and sold several other businesses in various industries. After being told time and time again by others that they would like to start a business but didn't know how, she launched the Starters Club. It's a place to learn business fundamentals to help get the business you've been dreaming of off the ground and making money. Erin is also a speaker who teaches about business and what it means to follow your heart. So welcome, Erin. Welcome to Mimika TV. Super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited too.
Well, I'm thrilled to be able to be on this side of the coin because last time you and I chatted, it was just audio and you interviewed me for your show.
Yes, absolutely. That's actually by the time this goes live, but that's going to go live this Friday. So I'm super
awesome.
excited.
I'm excited. Mm-hmm. And what I love about that is, I love talking about business and especially anything entrepreneurial. And a lot of my audience are creatives, which are designers, artists, photographers, but the fundamentals of business, no matter what industry you're in, remain the same, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that is what we're gonna talk to you about, and especially the fact that coming from the business side, we can marry the passion and the dream of a business with finding exactly how to put yourself in that position. So to remind everybody, our weekly giveaway this week is awesome because Erin has kindly donated a 1-hour consulting power hour worth $375. Now, if you want to help with your business, starting it or figuring out where to go, this will be great for you. So make sure to stay tuned. We'll be giving some more info about a free download as well. So before we dive into the good juicy bits, give us a little bit of a backstory. How did you start in business?
Well, it was kind of by chance. I never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur, although looking back on my childhood, I always had that desire. I was the girl that was safe. Go get a job, do the right thing, get safe, and looking back on college, I didn't know what it meant to really follow my heart. I just followed the money, and It's really that simple. And so it was about a year or two into corporate America, only about a year, I had just bought a brand new house, I had just bought a brand new car, and it was when the consulting world started to crash. And about at that time, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and was like, I've got to own. And I started owning whatever I could. And slowly that evolved from stocks to real estate to businesses. I figured out everything along the way, which led me to here about 14 years later. I just had so many people tell me, I just don't know where to start. And they feel like that's kind of their blockage. They don't know how to make money or where to begin. Just the small steps is what preventing them from really following their dreams. So that's where I am today and helping people put that dream together.
So you are fulfilling your heart's passion, which is helping other people find theirs, which I think is totally awesome. Because it's a really hard thing, and especially for us creative types that are, like for me included, I learned business, but I've always been a creative at heart. And when something's your passion, there's often a psychological and emotional thing that happens. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not there yet, or will people value it, or I love it, and how can I charge for doing something I love to do? So those are things I know that my audience struggles with, that I really want us to be able to help them with today. So even though, people who are business minded, as you say, follow the money, right, and it's less about hard work, it's more about ticking off the numbers, which I think is great for some. But for what we do, and in the industry and the markets that we're in, when you're creating something of yourself, it's much, much harder. So let's dive right in and give us some great tips. So knowing where you started in, so you following the money didn't give you any satisfaction. What was there a certain moment that, like an epiphany or something?
So I had always started businesses, but I always kept a corporate crutch. I was always so scared to really kick that crutch out. And I happened upon parenthood. I wasn't planning on being a parent and ended up with 2 babies right in a row. And there's a quote out there that says, your children will be who you are, so be who you want them to be.
Oh, that's a cool quote.
Yeah, it's anonymous. I wish I knew who came up with it because it's forever changed my life. And I started looking at my life and saying, I want nothing more as a parent than for my kids to follow their passion. And, I love my mom and dad. I'm not saying anything wrong about them, but they were, if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they were the go get a job, be safe. And, I love you. I know you love to do this, but don't do that. Okay. That's not going to make you money. Go where the money is. And, they just wanted the best for me. And, it's absolutely commendable on their end, but for my kids, I want them to dream. I want them to live with passion. I want them to, cultivate what they love doing and figure out ways to, do it better and do it more and actually, make money doing it if that's what they want to do. And so I had to look at my life and say, I can't live in fear every day and not believe in myself if that's all I want for my children. And so it was that moment for me where I kicked the corporate crutch, went full time with this business, and never, it's been 4 months, honestly, since I've quit my job. It hasn't been that long, but my only regret is that I didn't do it a long time ago.
A lot sooner, right?
Yeah,
Once
exactly.
you've relieved yourself of that corporate noose and you feel like you're the author of your own destiny, it has a feeling of freedom, but it's also very scary, right?
It is very scary. Like, you have to, in the corporate world, if you kind of sit around for a day or two, you still get your work done, you still get paid, you still know that paycheck's coming. When work is slow, you still know that paycheck's coming. So you really have to be very strategic in your planning, make sure you're working productively, not just busy.
And hustle.
Hustle. Luckily, I've started the businesses before. I'm not afraid of hustle. I know that hustle, but it is scary when you don't have that extra money coming in. I've always had extra, and now I'm not in the extra standpoint. I just have my own money coming in. So
how does it work, though? Because some of us have two different sides. Like, for me personally, I was working with my husband, and photography was something I loved to do, and I knew I wanted to make my passion a business. It's really hard to know when it can become a viable business. So what steps would you say, talking to the person who's already working but really wants to make this their full-time career, are there certain signs, are there certain things that you need to do before you can actually take the leap?
So are they at the point of they know their passion, they want to make a job of it? Is that where you're...
Yeah, well, I'm saying, like, for someone who's followed their passion, or they have this passion, let's take it back even further. They have this passion, but they don't know how to make a business out of it. So they're currently working, maybe doing something they don't enjoy. They're feeling like something's missing, or they're having that edging, that sort of like I call getting antsy. That something's got to change and something's brewing. What would you say to that person to help give them that little push?
I know for me, the push came when I was so much in misery over where I was. To stay in that comfort zone was horribly uncomfortable. So that was, I was angry at people for no reason. It was kind of looking back on it, like anybody asked me for something, I was angry, and it wasn't comfortable anymore. We sit there and we're like, well, this is the easy route, and it was harder for me to be there than to leave that. So I think when it's calling you, like, every day, look at it's so simple, yet it's so difficult for us to do. What would you rather be doing each day? Is it this, where you're, making money doing something, or is it really living with your passion? And then really taking those moments to try to figure out, there are so many different ways you can make money. It's just, in today's world, the sky is truly your limit. I mean, there's that website, and I'm totally blanking on it, but I don't know if you've seen it. These people actually open Disney boxes. They buy a toy, and they open Disney boxes of toys, and they walk through. All you see is their hand, and they're walking these shows through and showing what the Disney toy is. Kids are mesmerized by this YouTube channel. They make $5 million a year.
Wow.
On this YouTube, and so you can't tell me, no matter what your passion is, no matter what you do, if you're a photographer, I don't care if there's 100 other photographers in your small town. How can you make yourself different? Can you teach photography classes online? Can you hone in on a certain Photoshop skill and teach that to others? And take those other 100 photographers and teach them a skill. And there's just so much opportunity, and you just have to, once that passion is just brewing inside of you where you can't stay, look outside the box and figure out ways you could make money.
So, like, looking at it from that perspective, we're talking about photography for the moment. So,
yeah.
And I know this is a huge problem at the moment because everyone's a photographer. If you own a cell phone, everyone's a photographer. And back when I started photography in 2003, so it's like 11 years ago, the equipment wasn't up to what it is now. For me to invest in cameras was super expensive, so the barrier to entry was much higher.
Right.
Now that the barrier to entry in business is much lower, like, everyone has got availability of Facebook, you've got the tools at your disposal, anyone can open up a WordPress website and you put up a shingle and say, I'm in business. Other than trying to be different, because I hear this a lot, be different. How exactly do you think about being different if this is what you know? Like, how do you take that further?
Well, I think it's about getting really good at your craft too. I noticed your post today that went up was with Liz LaBanca. Liz actually lives in the same town as me, and she is the perfect example. We live in a town of a ton of stay-at-home moms, and so a lot of them get a really nice camera and they decide to be a photographer, right?
Yeah.
And they're horrible. Like, there's shadows on their pictures. They're doing the auto settings. I see these people put pictures up that are blurry. I'm like, how can you put this on your page? It's blurry. But Liz was a perfect example. She learned and learned and learned and learned and honed in on this craft. And she charges 6 times what some of these other people do, and she's book solid because it wasn't just, oh, I have a point and shoot, or, oh, I bought expensive equipment. There's a lot more in any craft that you do in getting really good at it. And she took that moment and that time to learn that. And you see her pictures and they're beautiful. They're absolutely gorgeous. So I know you need to practice, and absolutely everybody's got to start somewhere. And I completely appreciate that and understand that. But if that's what you're going to do it and learn it, and, make sure that you live and breathe that if you want to stand out above the rest. I really think it's take Photoshop classes, learn how, Brian Braun, I think is his name. He's a photographer out of Florida. He is a Photoshop genius, and his photos are just gorgeous. And so in a place where there's another, thousands of photographers out there, his stand out above the rest because he's a Photoshop. He spent that time.
He's taken a niche and he's owned that niche. And I think that's a big thing about business success, is just because, 10, 15 years ago, because somebody called themselves a photographer or a florist or a baker, and they were one of a few on the street that they could compete. But now, because competition is so much fiercer, I think, and I'm hearing this a lot, is having to really dig deep as to finding a really small, like almost hyper niching. Yes. Even though you do photography, even though you do wedding photography, maybe even hyper niching, being the only film photographer in your area will make you stand out. And even being a film photographer who loves to shoot backlight is even more of a hyper niche. So it's almost like taking something and owning it, because this is also a problem, and it really grates my cheese when I hear people say, oh, anyone can do it, and it's great that we encourage people to make a business out of what they love. And yes, anyone can make a business, but what we're saying is you can't just slap something out there and expect things to work, right? You've got to be good at what you're doing first.
Right. I agree. And I think too, the super niching is huge because, when you're on LinkedIn, when you're on the website, when you're on this, if I see photographer, okay, you're a dime a dozen. I don't know what you connect, but if I see, children, you specialize in children. Okay, I've got 2 little kids. I connect with you more. If you say you specialize specifically in newborn, and, then all of a sudden you may not appeal to me anymore, but that's okay. But that's somebody who's searching specifically for newborn. There's that connection, and we're so scared of that. Well, I want to take pictures of seniors too, and that's okay. But be known for something very specific and very niche. I think that's huge too.
So now, how would you say to someone who wants to start a business and says, by saying no to those other forms of business? And I have these moments as well where I feel like, I know because I can do it and I can do it well. Maybe I don't want to say no to that business because, maybe that leads to. How would you say from that perspective, what would you talk to that and helping them get through that stage?
Well, I don't think you have to say no if somebody comes and asks you, but I just think you have to, when you're starting out, just very much specialize, because if you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. And when you get in that specialization, that allows you to charge higher prices too, because when you know something that well, people are going to come to you and say, I want you're the newborn person. I really want you to take these pictures. And it's so scary to do, because people are so scared. Oh my God, what if somebody's looking and they see my website and they want, a family portrait, but I don't have that on my page yet. Just start small, start somewhere, just develop it, work that super fine niche, and then you can always expand, but get a reputation in a small area first, trying to appeal to everyone. I just think it's a much better approach.
So this could relate to any type of business, and I've heard this
absolutely
so many times now, and it's definitely, I think, Wouldn't you say because, of the accessibility to, and anyone can Google and look for something, that if the competition is fierce, that the only way to stand out is to not to become vanilla, but to make yourself a different flavor. So, and again, I think that's some great points. You're saying that you don't have to appeal to everyone. And this is the thing, is when often coaching people, I say, if you want to magnetize people, it does mean you've got to repel some others.
Right.
So saying no to opportunities clients that necessarily aren't a good fit. So you say that, would that be also a good viewpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. That is probably one of the biggest things I ever learned as a business owner was when you first start, right, you just want to make money, and you're like, oh God, just anybody who calls, you want to make money. And I'd get these calls from people that would say, well, these are your rates, but I don't want to pay that. I'll pay you a little bit less. And you want money, right? And so you're like, okay, well, a little bit less is better than none, so I'll take it. And those customers are probably your biggest pain in the butt.
Yep.
They never respect you. They never appreciate you because you've basically devalued yourself. They've said, I don't value you. And you've said, okay, I don't value me either. And it's that connection. So saying no to the people you don't jive with is going to only be better for your business because you're valuing yourself. You're working with the people you want to work with. And that's huge. And I think with the super niche too is I hate more than anything when people start a business and to get business, if it's a very saturated business, their idea is to come in and be the lowest price.
Yeah, like a race to the bottom. Who wants to win that race, right?
I know, and it just cheapens your industry. You're saying, okay, and I promise you too, when somebody sees somebody's charging $600 and you're charging $50, they're more than likely they're like, oh, I wonder why they're cheaper. Like, I wonder what's wrong with them, or I must not get the value. I must not get as many pictures. I must not get as high a quality. And that's what goes in their mind, not I want to go with this person because they're cheaper. So don't devalue yourself like that either. And just set specifically the customers you want to work with. Saying no is only going to help drive your business. If you're saying no in a respectful way, don't say no because you don't feel like doing it or, whatever for that reason. But if you're not jiving with a person, and it's not worth it, it's just not worth the money.
Because what happens is then if you don't feel valued, you don't put your passion in it, and then without putting your full heart into it, then it shows in your work and then the results. And I've had this experience myself as, I would take on jobs that I really, people would argue with me and I'd feel beat up in price, and I didn't want to put my best effort into it, and then things would happen, and then eventually they would walk away with a bad taste in their mouth. And who wants negative press, right?
Absolutely. It's not worth it. I always looked at it too. I think the biggest realization I came was I am disrespecting the customers who are fantastic to me. And I'm saying, well, just because you didn't ask, I just think there's so much wrong with that. I need to completely appreciate and respect the customers who do value me and say, this is your price, I'm paying it. And it's just not fair to them to take the customers who are really giving you a hard time.
So how would you address the stage where, so we have a photographer, and I had this myself, being one of the more expensive in the area, and then there's new people coming in the industry constantly and undercutting you on price, and theoretically business dries up, right? Or people go elsewhere. What would you say to them in order for them to stick to their prices, and even if their business sort of leads, they don't have as many as they have before? What would you say to that person to help them continue pursuing what they're doing?
I would say just find ways that you can sell your value, and really make sure you're stressing, not by putting others down by any means, but really make sure you're in your marketing and in your all of what you're doing to put yourself out there, your website, whatever, you're really selling your value. What is it that I'm going to get by going with you versus other people? And, I learned that in my trade too. A lot of people, well, so-and-so down the road is cheaper. And I'm like, well, go for them. They have less years experience. They, have whatever it is. And not like I said, you have to just like cut people down, but say, well, I have, 7 years experience. I've been doing this. I have, 50 weddings under my belt, whatever it is that, you're specializing in, and sell that value and why I would go with you over that person down the street. Because when it comes, photography especially, but with so much of anything in business that we create, this is a once in a lifetime moment. This is an opportunity, whether, you're getting your hair done for an event, whether you're, getting your pictures done for whatever it is. I better be 100% sure that what I'm putting my money in is really going to give me the value that I'm expecting, because there is nothing worse than making that mistake and you can't back out of it.
So how do you educate people that way? Because I've had that problem where people would like argue with me with price, and I say, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you. They only appreciate what they had when they don't have it anymore. How would you be able to avoid that? So, you know, instead of crying over spilt milk, how would you educate a client that this is why they need to value what it is that you're offering and not realize that after the effect?
Well, I mean, if you have stories to share, you know, well, I remember one bride came to me, she showed me these pictures, and not, like I said, I'm not suggesting you bash other people, but a lot of times you can share stories of, you know, make sure your photographer thinks of this, and this. Are they thinking of those things? Oh, they're not. Okay, they didn't, you know, consider this. Or are they going to do a session beforehand? Or are they going to, you know, there's probably a lot of steps that you take that, because you're a seasoned person, you think of, because you've maybe made the mistakes before, or you've maybe, you know, been there and was like, ooh, we learn so much with each thing that we do. So by being able to share those little steps that you take, those little extra things that you do.
So almost like educating the client, really just helping them educate them. And even if you educate them for the next photographer down the road, that's fine. Yes. You never know. These things do come back, that even though they might not be a good fit for you, by sending them to someone else who could be a better fit, right? You know, is a great thing. So that is really awesome.
Yeah, and you're going to be remembered. You know, when you really sit down and take that time to educate and say, you know, yes, you run the chance that they'll go to another photographer down the road for $1,000 less and tell them to take those steps. But you're the bigger person, you're the professional, and you're the expert, and they're going to remember that.
Right, definitely. And I'm a big proponent for that as well. You just never know of all the little seeds that you plant along the way, how things do eventually come out. So I think those are some awesome tips. And then you've also got a great download for our audience, and this is something that you can go to. We'll have the URL at the bottom, which is this thestartersclub.com/Mimika. And this is our top 5 things to get ready for your business. Now tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know, it's just I've sat down with a lot of people and really gotten into, you know, understanding what it is people need from a business. There's a few points I make. Your why. I don't think, you know, a lot of people, especially in the more creative industries, are like, well, I really like this, and so I'm going to make a business out of it. And I really want to emphasize that your why has to drive you more than anything, because I have yet to meet an entrepreneur, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs. I've yet to meet an entrepreneur that their journey was just crazy easy, and they just started and they put up a business and they were making millions. And
if they do say it was easy, they're lying.
They're lying. Oh my gosh, Mimika, don't even get me started on that. They're so lying. Don't ever let anybody convince you that they put up a website and 2 days later they were rolling in it, because they're rolling in poop is what they're rolling in. So, but yeah, you know, I really emphasize the why. And just, I think another thing that's really important that I really like to emphasize for people, and what I emphasize in the document, is that start being you. Okay, so if you want to, whatever business you are in, don't go, when you're out meeting people, when you're out this, and you're trying to attract clients, be very specific and say, you know, photographer, we'll stick with that. I'm a photographer. I specialize in newborn. I do this. And when you're out, that energy, when you are sure of who you are and what you're doing and what you want, it attracts people. They want to get to know you. They know specifically, I need to get somebody, and so when they're having that conversation and somebody's like, oh, I'm about to have a baby, they're like, I got somebody for you. And that like attracts like. And so really just put that entrepreneur hat on, own it, be that, get out and start talking and telling people about it. And even if you're not quite ready yet, even if maybe you're still maybe going to purchase your camera, but you know in a month that your business is going to be off the ground and going, start acting like you are there and you are on it. And when you're out meeting people, it's just, they're going to remember you. Those are some.
So it's really just having the confidence in yourself, which is exactly what we're aiming to do with this show and with everything, all the content we like to share, is because I think that self-doubt is really crippling to a lot of people, myself included. And you have these moments where you know, no one's got it all together. We have our ups and our downs, and every day provides itself with a new challenge, but we have to look ourselves in the mirror and be able to tell ourselves, you know, we are worth it, which is exactly goes into what I always like to give people as a pep talk, which is you need to believe in yourself. You are worth it. You can do what you love and be paid for living it. And I say that every week at the end of my shows, and I think, you know, I have to remind myself too that, you know, we do need to have that self-belief. in order to make a success, because it attracts things.
It's so true.
So, I mean, I'd like to tell everybody, if you like this video, click to subscribe and share it with your friends. You never know, there might be someone who really needs to hear what we had to say today. And if you want more freebie down resources that I offer my community, go to mimikacooney.com and /freebies. And there's an ebook called Modern Marketing, which will help you think outside the box. And again, Erin has got that, has kindly put together her download, which is thestartersclub.com /Mimika. And you can get some great tips there. And we love to hear comments, like what did you take away from today that you love and you're going to use in your business, or any sort of aha moments that Erin shared with you that really have inspired you. So we love to hear feedback from our audience. If you had to sum everything up, and we've covered a lot of ground, what would a takeaway tip be that someone could remember you by? And what would you want them to know from what you have to share?
Just believe in yourself. Like, especially when you've got this creative mind. I just was watching, actually, the author of The Alchemist. His name is escaping me, but his parents actually put him in a mental institution. Oh, wow. Because he was creative and they wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so many times when you have that creative mind, you talk yourself down. You're not good enough.
You think you're going mad. What is wrong with me?
Yeah, and what's wrong with you? And oh my gosh, when you've been given that gift, like no one else has, the eye for photography, or, if you're baking, whatever it is, you've been given a gift, and appreciate that, hone it. And the more creativity you put towards it, the more creativity you'll get. And we see that every day. And just keep going. Like, I think we just take for granted what we give, or what we've been given, or what we know. And it's a gift, and do something with it, and believe in yourself and share it with the world. That's what you've had. And there's nothing wrong with asking money in order to share it for the world, because that's how you're going to be able to share it more and learn more and make it better. Mm-hmm. So just believe in yourself and just really understand the gift you've been given, and share it.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate all those tips, and I know my audience will really love it. We always love to have a bit of a pep talk, because we have to remind ourselves constantly. It doesn't happen once. It's got to be a regular occurrence. So if you want to hear more about what Erin has to say, she has her own podcast called The Starters Club, which is where she interviewed me for. So that's on iTunes as well, right?
Yep, iTunes and Stitcher. I'm very easy to find. It's thestartersclub.com. Everything across social media is The Starters Club. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter right now, and I'm on Google Plus and Pinterest, but I'm working those right now. We talk about super niching. That's one thing I teach about social media. Start small, start on one, hone it, craft it, get it down, and then add another one. Don't try to be everywhere at once. So that's what I'm doing myself.
Perfect. Well, those are some great tips, and we'll have all these links below the video too. But definitely reach out to Erin and tell her thanks for being on Mimika TV. We love to appreciate our guests and spending their valuable time with us. And I'm going to say thanks again for joining me, Erin. I so enjoyed our chat, and I'll look forward to hearing some more great things coming up soon. And again, everyone, share your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Click to subscribe. We would love to be able to stay in contact with you and share more great resources with you. And again, remember to believe in yourself. You are worth it. You can do what you love and be paid for living it. Thanks for watching Mimika TV. Until next time, take care. Okay, awesome. Are you ready? And if they do say it was easy, they're lying.
They're lying. Oh my gosh.
You think you're going mad. What is wrong with me? Join Capture School today at captureschool.com and learn how to build a brilliant business.